They escaped Ukraine's front lines, but the sound of death followed them home.
Captain conscripts. So even if a ceasefire doesn't work out, why should Americans continue to fund a foreign military that's scraping the bottom of the barrel of its population like this?
Well, you have to understand, very importantly, this is Biden's war. This is not my war. I'm here to get us out of it. It's a mess, and I'm here to get us out. I haven't heard that when you say about 60-year-old men and, et cetera. But this is Biden's war, and we're working very hard to get us out. I stopped 5 wars in the last 5 months, actually, and I'd like this to be the 6th, frankly, and that doesn't even include Iran with, obliterating their nuclear haul, because they would have had nuclear weapons within 2 months. But stopped a lot of wars. You just take a look at the ones just over the last 2 or 3 months. It's been amazing. This is the one I'm trying to stop. This is the one we're working hardest on. The other ones I stopped within a matter of days, almost every one of them, including India and Pakistan, and I could go over the whole list, but you know the list as well as I do. But this is the one we'd like to see. I haven't not heard that, but this is Biden's war. And it's a war that he got us into, or indirectly got us into. It should have never happened. It would have never happened had I been president. Yeah, next to you.
The war in Ukraine has transformed into something unprecedented in modern warfare. Civilians as old as 60 are now being conscripted. Videos show forced mobilization, including people with disabilities, and the death toll continues to mount, with thousands of young soldiers dying every month. This is the reality that has pushed so many to flee, carrying invisible wounds that may never heal. In a cramped apartment in Kyiv, Pavlo sits with a broken drone controller, his hands trembling slightly as he tries to make it work. The 30-year-old drone operator has returned from the hellscape of Ukraine's eastern front, but he can't escape what he witnessed there. The high-pitched whine of first-person view drones, those deadly mechanical hunters that have transformed modern warfare, still echoes in his mind every single day.
Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the 24 hours, the last 24 hours, that is, across 16 settlements in the region. 2 people have been killed and 10 are wounded in Russian bombardment, and at least 9 buildings are severely damaged in the early morning strikes on the Zaporizhia city district. Emergency services continue to respond on the ground.
The intensity of the conflict shows no signs of abating. In just 24 hours, Russia launched 567 attacks across 16 settlements in Zaporizhia alone, killing 2 and wounding 10 more. The bombardment of civilian infrastructure continues relentlessly, even as diplomatic efforts unfold behind closed doors. Pavlo was an FPV drone pilot, one of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers who operate these small, highly maneuverable killing machines from positions kilometers behind the front lines. These aren't your typical military drones. FPV drones are fast, cheap, and utterly terrifying. They cost as little as $400 to build, yet they're capable of destroying Russian tanks worth millions. But their true power isn't just in their explosive payload. It's in the psychological warfare they wage on every soldier who hears their distinctive buzz. You cannot hide from the FPV, and to run is useless, Pavlo explains, his voice carrying the weight of months spent in this deadly game of cat and mouse. You try to be as calm as possible, and you pray. Even when an FPV drone is too high to see clearly or hidden behind foliage, soldiers can hear its distinctive high-pitched whine. Bzzz. Pavlo mimics the sound that has become the soundtrack of modern combat. You are being hunted. This is the new reality of warfare in Ukraine.
Have Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the round, ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
How close do you think you are to a deal?
Excuse me?
How close do you think you are to some kind of deal?
Well, I don't want to say. I've been disappointed before with this one.
What was the breakthrough today? Did Vladimir Putin make some kind of concession that he hasn't been willing to make before?
I don't call it a breakthrough. I mean, we've been working on this a long time. There are thousands of young people dying, mostly soldiers, but also, missiles being hit into Kiev and other places. But in terms of soldiers, I think Russia's lost over 20,000 since the beginning of the year. 20,000. And I guess the estimate for Ukraine is about 9,000. It's a terrible situation. We want to get it stopped. We don't have American soldiers there, but I feel I have an obligation to get it stopped. This was not my war. This war would have never started, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years. It went 4 years and it didn't start. But this is Biden's war. This was on his watch. And, it's funny, we had no land was taken from Trump. It was taken from Bush. It was taken from Biden. The whole thing they would take from Biden if it weren't for us. But it was taken by Obama. Take a look at what was taken with all of the land that was taken. Nothing was taken by Russia from us. Not 1 ounce of land was taken. I'm here to get the thing over with. It would have never started if I were president. And we're here to get it stopped and get the death stopped. Yeah, please.
FPV drones have fundamentally changed how battles are fought, creating what military experts call a 15-kilometer kill zone along the front lines. These small, bomb-laden aircraft chase armored vehicles, hunt infantry units through tree lines, and stalk individual soldiers to their deaths with a precision that was unimaginable just a few years ago. The psychological impact is devastating, and it doesn't end when soldiers leave the battlefield. The technology behind FPV drones is deceptively simple. They're controlled remotely by operators wearing headsets that receive real-time video feeds from the drone's front-facing camera. This gives pilots an intimate, high-definition view of their targets, so clear that they can see the faces of enemy soldiers before they strike. The operators typically work from positions 2 to 5 kilometers away from the front lines, safely hidden in bunkers or basements, while their mechanical proxies do the killing. But the psychological toll on these remote warriors is profound. According to recent studies, FPV drone operators and intelligence analysts suffer from higher rates of PTSD, emotional exhaustion, and burnout compared to traditional combat roles. Around 46 to 48% of drone operators suffer from significant psychiatric symptoms, severe enough to affect their job performance or family life. The main symptoms include sadness, guilt, poor concentration, irritability, anxiety, and sleep disturbance. The intimacy of drone warfare creates unique psychological challenges. Unlike traditional combat where distance provides some emotional buffer, FPV operators watch their targets in high-definition detail. They see enemy soldiers as individuals, their faces, their movements, their final moments. This level of visual clarity, combined with the operator's physical safety, creates a surreal disconnect that can be psychologically devastating. For soldiers on the receiving end, the psychological impact is even more severe. American medical specialists who recently visited Ukraine report that FPV drones are unleashing unprecedented psychological and neurological harm on troops. While missiles have historically been able to seek out targets, drones represent a new level of precision and psychological warfare, capable of maneuvering remotely to track and kill specific soldiers, explains Dr. Ronald Hirschberg, a neurological rehabilitation expert from Harvard. The sound of these drones has become a trigger for profound psychological trauma. Soldiers report that everyday mechanical sounds, lawnmowers, motorcycles, air conditioners, even the buzzing of bees and flies, can instantly transport them back to moments of mortal terror on the battlefield. The high-pitched whine warns soldiers that somewhere, kilometers away, an operator may be tracking their every move, seeking to kill them. Recent data shows that in recent months, drones have caused more than 60% of injuries among Ukrainian forces. The scale of casualties has reached staggering proportions. Over 20,000 Russian soldiers and approximately 9,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died since the beginning of this year alone. These numbers represent not just statistics, but entire generations being wiped out in a conflict that shows no signs of ending despite international diplomatic efforts. But the physical casualties are just part of the story. The psychological warfare is equally devastating. Russian soldiers have complained on social media that Ukrainian FPV drones make it harder to move around and have redefined how far from the front is considered safe. The proliferation of FPV drones has been staggering. Ukraine produced at least 1 million drones last year and has plans to manufacture 2.5 million in 2025. Russia, not to be outdone, is targeting 1.4 million drones annually, 10 times what they produced in 2023. This arms race is creating a battlefield where the buzz of death is omnipresent. The technology is evolving rapidly in response to countermeasures. Electronic jamming, once considered the Achilles heel of FPV drones, is being overcome by frequency hopping technology and fiber optic cables that make jamming impossible. Both sides are developing increasingly sophisticated versions, including ground-based drones equipped with machine guns and underwater variants. What makes this psychological warfare particularly insidious is its persistence. Unlike traditional combat trauma that occurs during specific engagements, the threat of FPV drones is constant. Soldiers must remain vigilant 24 hours a day, knowing that death could come buzzing out of the sky at any moment. This constant hypervigilance leads to chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and eventually, psychological breakdown. The impact extends beyond individual soldiers to entire military units and civilian populations. In high-intensity drone attack regions of Ukraine, parents show significantly higher rates of PTSD, 28.9% compared to 20.5% in areas with fewer drone attacks. Children in these regions also show elevated rates of psychological trauma, creating generational impacts that will last long after the war ends. Ukraine has responded to this psychological crisis by establishing treatment centers that provide therapy during the war rather than after it. These facilities offer salt therapy rooms, yoga, counseling, and sleep therapy to help soldiers process their trauma. But the challenge is enormous. 90% of soldiers return to the front lines after treatment, often within days or weeks. The transformation of warfare through FPV drones represents more than just a technological shift. It's a fundamental change in the nature of combat itself. Traditional military doctrine assumed that psychological support would be provided after conflicts ended. But drone warfare has made this approach obsolete. The psychological casualties are immediate, severe, and ongoing. The broader implications are staggering. NATO is reportedly exploring the creation of its own drone wall on the alliance's eastern flank, based on Ukraine's experience. Other conflict zones around the world are already seeing the proliferation of similar technology. The psychological warfare tactics pioneered in Ukraine are likely to become the new normal in 21st century conflicts. For soldiers like Pavlo, the war continues even after they've left the battlefield. Every mechanical sound is a potential trigger. Every buzz could be the return of that deadly hunt. The broken drone controller in his apartment serves as a reminder of a war that has fundamentally changed not just how battles are fought, but how warriors are broken. The FPV drone revolution has created a new category of war trauma, one where the psychological wounds may prove even more lasting than the physical ones. As these technologies spread globally, understanding and addressing their psychological impact becomes crucial, not just for military effectiveness, but for the long-term mental health of an entire generation of warriors. The buzz of death that haunts soldiers like Pavlo is more than just a sound. It's the signature of a new era in warfare, one where the battlefield extends far beyond the front lines and into the deepest recesses of the human mind. The question isn't just how to defend against these weapons, but how to heal the invisible wounds they leave behind.